What the flip-a-dip-dip is up? Today I am here to talk about way down, Hadestown, way down under the ground. Yes, I saw Hadestown Pro Shot. Now, I wanted to talk about my thoughts on it, just off rip. I did not know anything about it, literally at all. When I went in to go watch the Pro Shot, I didn't even think it was actually going to be about, like, Hades or anything Greek related. So I just went in totally blind. And I was pleasantly surprised at how much of a fucking 5 out of 5 star banger it was. And then, of course, as is the way of America, my phone started listening to me and then showing me all the discourse on TikTok. You know how it is when you get into a new fandom. And I was seeing a lot of interpretations of it. Now, I've listened to the soundtrack multiple times, and I have seen the movie itself 3 times. And there were just a few talking points people online were like very aggressively defending instead of like, keeping their mind open to different interpretations of like this piece of media that I just wanted to talk about. Off rip, it's about what the story is as a whole. A lot of people seem to not be able to separate that the tale of Orpheus and Eurydice is not Hadestown. Hadestown is a telling of a modern day I use loosey goosey, but they're not the same. You're you know what I mean? You're being told the story of it as opposed to just reading about it. And like you get spoken to as the audience. You are being spoken to. It's not you're reading an account of something. So a lot of people though don't, I guess, really understand that, and a lot of them are like, "Oh, this story is about, if he didn't turn back to see Eurydice, he never loved her to begin with, because the whole point of the Hadestown musical is that to let go of your grief, because he always was turning around and he was always like trying to undo things that couldn't be undone, basically, like just couldn't stop looking back no matter what, so couldn't grieve properly, etc., etc. I like that interpretation of the main story, but that's all that like the Hadestown is being flooded with. And I like, forgive the stutter, I forgot I could pause and think about my thoughts for a second. Hadestown is so much more than just the story of Orpheus and Eurydice. It actively calls out capitalism, industrialism. That is its main theme. The reason that Orpheus and Eurydice end up in the situation that they are in here, as opposed to the Greek story, is because of a corrupted system that is made off of the exploitation of the poor and working class. Trying to look at Hadestown through a lens of the original story, I think does a major injustice to it. And at the end of the day, I haven't really seen anyone, like, actually talk about, like, leave the theater talking about what the main point of the actual musical is, and I believe it's pretty fucking obvious, as he says, it's an old song, we're going to sing it anyway. Now, he also says, and we're going to sing it in hopes of it turning out different. And a lot of people really like stick to that specific line that he says. But what I think it's pretty much those same 2 lines. It's not about like repeating universes, repeating timelines. It's not even, the focus isn't at all. The lesson that you're learning is not the lesson of the original story of Orpheus and Eurydice. The lesson you're learning here in Hadestown is that even though something is sad, and even though something's not going to end up well, you still are optimistic and you still consume the piece of media anyway. Especially in this day and age, there's a lot of people, I especially notice this with like books, that will only want to stick to reading a certain type of book or movies. They'll be like, I don't like sad movies, I don't like sad books, I don't like to feel sad. And well, no one likes to feel sad, but I feel like when it comes to media, there is such pushback on things like that, and then if your piece of media, let's take Mitski's music as an example, produces any sort of negative feeling in any way, shape, or form, you are going to be reduced down to nothing but sadness in your genre. You, as a person, should be able to handle a sad tale. You should be able to handle sadness. I think that is like the main thing of Hadestown. It's like, hey, this is a sad story. You expect a happy ending. You want a happy ending. That's not how life is. And you really should be able to handle hearing a sad tale and not tweaking out over it. And when a lot of people are like, oh, I wouldn't have turned back, I would have made it. Because, you know, as always is, everyone's like, well, if he turned back, he didn't even deserve her to begin with, because he would have never gone to Hadestown for her in the first place. It's okay for there to be different interpretations of different media. There's also a lot of people, again, that can't really separate the fact that this is not obviously the original Greek classic of Orpheus and Eurydice, who will be like, oh, well, he turned around because he heard her stumble and went to hold out his hand to help her up. Or he turned around because he was in the light and thought he was safe to turn around, but she was still in the darkness. Big dog. Number one, it's a Greek tale. Like, there's probably some fucking reality where they're siblings in one of these retellings, okay? That's specific. There's just literally people quote this and copy and paste it, and it's become one of those things you're gonna see literally on every single fucking Hadestown video, no matter what. And it's the quote of someone saying, oh, if an Orpheus that doesn't turn around is an Orpheus that never loved Eurydice to begin with and never went down to Hadestown. It has just become this thing that people copy and paste without really thinking about what they're saying and what that actually means. Now, on the topic of me believing that the theme of the show is people should be able to handle negative feelings in media, comes the other major talking point where people are debating on whether or not Hades had sex with Eurydice. And I think that the reason people are in such denial of what I think is also extremely obvious in the musical is because they struggle to separate it from the original Greek telling of the story. This is not just a tale of Orpheus and Eurydice, it is a tale of capitalism, imperialism, hard laborers that are being exploited, the working class, the poor class. I don't know why there seems to be like this mass forgetfulness of the fact that men who are like, women sleep their way to the top, oh, Kamala Harris slept her way to the top, oh, all these women can't possibly be smart, they just slept their way to the top, comes from and is their twist on a society that they once perpetuated where women had to sell their bodies in order to get by and survive. That does not validate any man that says that bullshit today. It's just that when women broke out of that, they got mad and yada yada. That's a video for another day. But my point still remains. The thing that Hades says before he lays eyes on Eurydice is, if you don't even want my love, I'll give it to someone who does. If you don't want it, fine, I'll give it to somebody. I'll give it to somebody right now, bet. It's the same type of narcissistic argument. Like if you have a parent that's like, oh, well, I'm just a terrible mother. I'm just a terrible father. I guess I'm just the worst parent on the planet Earth. It's the husband equivalent of that. And people are like, oh, they're taking it too literally. They're taking the lyrics too literally. If it was too literal, there's no reason that Hades would later have to confirm with Persephone, like, the girl means nothing to me. He slept with her, and I don't think it was any sort of, like, essay. She was like, I'm trying to get bed and board. I ain't trying to starve no more. He was like, okay, can you help me, like, cause beef with my wife? And she's like, okay, sure, and you can have my soul at the same time. And then they freaked it, and then she's getting drunk over it, because she knows. Persephone knows. But it is, like, a huge, like, jab and point at the fact of how women were treated during this time. And I think we can even back that up because people, people hear stuff about like feminism or racism and they're all like, oh, well, it can't be about that. It's not, not everything is political. But let's look back at when the chips are down. After she makes the decision to be like, okay, I'm going down to hell because shit looks like I'm about to end up there either way. The fates literally are like, mind you, the fates that have been fucking harassing her this entire musical are like, go ahead and lay the blame, talk of virtue, talk of sin, when you have done the same in her shoes, in her skin. You can have your principles when you have a belly full, but when hunger has its way with you, there's no telling what you're gonna do. I think that's supposed to massively point at how quick people are to rush to judge women who have been found in situations where they can't do anything else but sell their body to get by. And even if you don't want to, if you want to be like, oh, that's a huge jump because then that makes like the whole thing sex motivated, then you could think about it as selling her body to work. Regardless, I feel like the musical on purpose has this massive guilt hovering over Eurydice immediately about being in Hadestown and what she had to do to get there and what she had to do so she's not feeling like she's starving anymore. Meanwhile, there's not as much of that guilt that hangs over Orpheus, even as he's like, wait for me, wait for me. There's not a lot of guilt there. I don't feel like he feels very guilty. He is so instant to be like, oh, okay, she's not here. You know what? Where is she? Where is she? I'm gonna find her. I'm gonna find her. Women and men are treated very differently today, but we're treated also very differently during that time from each other. And the reason people love to deny what I think is very obvious, because again, there is no reason to bring Eurydice to Hadestown and have to clarify that she doesn't mean anything to him if there was not some type of sexual encounter between them, because outside of that, behind closed doors, Hades and Eurydice never spoke. I sat here too long thinking, I forgot where I left off, but I'm gonna start with this. I think the reason people are so fucking in denial of this is something that I see a lot in fandom culture, which is they like the characters, therefore they cannot handle hearing that they do anything wrong. Jax from Amazing Digital Circus. I had a good like 2 minutes of stuff that I was saying, and then I realized I had paused basically while I was talking, and then I would unpause while I sat in between and think. So all of those thoughts are gone, but it's pretty much just typical fandom behavior. People like Hades, and that's no hate. I also like Hades. Hades and Persephone are my favorite from the musical. He did cheat on his wife, though. I'm not gonna sit here and drink, snort stupid. Jesus Christ. I'm not gonna snort stupid juice just because I like the character. It's just typical fandom behavior, and it sucks to see, especially with like pieces of media that are so fucking beautiful, because it's really detrimental to the piece of media that fandom is attached to. This story is being reduced to like, how shippable can characters be? How likable can characters be? How hard can I headcanon them? How hard can I write fanfiction with them? And you know what I mean? How much? And then people that do claim to understand like the themes of it will be like, oh well, yeah, it's about capitalism. Okay, so elaborate, because they're showing you effectively how women are treated in a society that we once had all lived in, and you're in denial of it. And again, the overarching theme is just about being able to handle negative things. There's so many people nowadays that are like, I don't want to watch something sad. I don't want to read something sad. I don't want to read anything serious. I don't want to watch anything serious. Like that is literally like something that like people I know have said in real life. People don't want to think anymore. Even people that claim to be like anti-AI that I know in real life will turn around and go watch like Love Island. That's human-made slop. It's not AI slop, it's a little bit better, but it's still human-made slop. You completely turn your brain off, and you do the same when you scroll on TikTok. But it's why people move on from the terrible shit like Epstein, Palestine, Sudan, Venezuela, Congo so fucking fast. Y'all can't handle things that don't tickle your little dopamine sensors. And this being about how women and how working class and poor people were treated during the Industrial Revolution and how that still trickles down to today, Hadestown literally like goes to you and is like, hey, you need to be able to like handle shit like this. You need to be handled, even in, like, you know, it's a Greek story, obviously, but that is a very large theme, because even people that watch it that would like to consider themselves woke or radically left, if you don't want to fucking handle sad things, and so you push so like the past back, it's the same reasoning that like people want to be like, oh, we don't need to talk about slavery, that was such a long time ago. Oh, we don't need to bring up politics, you really bring the mood down. If you refuse to look at the examples and mistakes that people have made, you're gonna fucking repeat them, and you negatively impact the victims of them the first time. You should be able to consume media that makes you sad, that makes you cry, that makes you feel, that makes you think. You shouldn't want to just sit there and have key jingling simulator playing in front of you for 2 hours for you to be able to enjoy something. Now, this logic, you are exempt from this logic if your fucking piece of media is like Content Out of Line. Like it has sexual assault or like, you know, bullshit in it that like it romanticizes. There's never a need to show fucking sexual assault on screen. There's never a need. There's literally never a need. But people want to be like, oh, it's supposed to comfort the uncomfortable, the discomfort. I don't fucking know. You're exempt from that. Because some people like to say that. That's wrong. You should be able to handle being sad, though. You should be able to watch watch a movie that you know it's like a sad dog movie, a sad person movie. You know shit's about to be tragic. You should be able to handle that. People in this day and age are very emotionally unregulated. That's a whole tangent, but we'll back to the main thing. people don't want to consume pieces of media that aren't catered to exactly what will tingle their little dopamine sensors. It's harmful to very important pieces of media. A damn smut book is gonna have more reads than a book about how black women are treated in America these days, and how they've been treated in the past, and how that affects them today, how it's trickled down to their kids and their kids and their kids and their kids. People would rather read a book that romanticizes rape and stalkers than read a book about how other countries have been victims of America, or how minorities in America have been affected by the blatant corruption that's within our government. You don't want to think. You don't want to think. And I hate seeing people that are like that in fandoms, and it's most of them these days, because a lot of people have just had their whole lives handed to them where they don't have to think. They don't have to think about anything. They can be entitled to whatever they want. They shouldn't have to think about negative things, especially not in regards to themselves. But again, that is like a completely other tangent. It's just unfortunate that this happens to befall the piece of media that is actively telling you that, hey, you should be able to handle this story even though we know it's sad. You should be able to handle this. You should be able to handle sadness. Anyways, I think that's literally about it, so sayonara.